Educators are designers of learning. ISTE Educator Standard 5 highlights the role and opportunities that the educator has in the design process. There are many design factors that need to be recognized to best support students and enable them to take advantage of what digital technologies have to offer. Design is a skill that educators need in order to develop authentic, learner-driven activities and environments that recognize and accommodate learner variability. ISTE Educator Standard 5 states, educators design authentic, learner-driven activities and environments that recognize and accommodate learner variability. Standard 5 combines both skill and creativity as educators are allowed the opportunity to rethink and redesign learning, learning with technology. The first specification is that the activities should be authentic and learner-driven. Authentic activities are those that have the students engaged in real-world tasks. It is important that the activities be learner-driven, as the student is not only the center of the experience but the director. They engage with the content, think critically about the solutions, and determine how and which technologies are most appropriate. The ISTE standards for students are a great guide to student use of technology, and designers will often review and align their learning design to these standards. The indicators provide further direction of how to be a learning designer. The first indicator focuses on the use of technology to consider all learners. It states, use technology to create, adapt, and personalize learning experiences that foster independent learning and accommodate learner differences and needs. The second describes an educator who is thinking about the content to be covered and how to use technology to design authentic learning experiences. It states, design authentic learning activities that align with content area standards and use digital tools and resources to maximize active, deep learning. The third indicator includes the use of design principles that involves the products and environment used in the learning experience. It states, explore and apply instructional design principles to create innovative digital learning environments that engage and support learning. Now let's get started with the first indicator. It reads, use technology to create, adapt, and personalize learning experiences that foster independent learning and accommodate learner differences and needs. Next, we will further the definition by uncovering the intent of the three components of this indicator. And diving deeper into the first part of this indicator, adapt and personalize learning experiences. This means capitalize on technology's efficiencies and functionality to meet students' individual learning needs by using tools like scaled tests and quizzes, adaptability tools and features, software data that can capture where students are struggling or spending the bulk of their time, competency-based learning resources, student reflection tools, project planning, organization, and time management tools, communication, collaboration, and individual research and curation tools, and tools that facilitate design and creativity. A question to consider. How do I leverage technology to foster student voice and choice in the learning environment? Some ideas to try. Revise an existing unit or lesson to allow students to use technology to take greater responsibility for their learning. Or give students choice on how they reach, reflect upon, and document their learning goals. Diving deeper into this indicator, part 2 of the indicator, which is foster independent learning. This means student ownership over their learning goals, demonstration of competency, and structuring of work. A question to consider. How do I incorporate the interests and curiosity of each student to facilitate the learning process? Some ideas to try. Create opportunities for students to own and manage their personal learning goals. Or, give the students 5 minutes a day to learn whatever they want. Increase that time as the year goes on and as the students are able to take greater responsibility for the learning process. Now let's consider the third part of the first indicator, which reads accommodate learner differences and needs. This means a systemic learner variability that, if planned for and supported, maximizes student learning and engagement. Now, for what does it mean for systemic learner variability? It's having multiple different methods to get to the same end. For example, differentiation, assistive technologies and accommodations, building motivation to learn by stimulating interest, multimodal content delivery, and fostering learner awareness of their work preferences and recognition of how academic work aligns to personal goals. A question to consider. What are my students' various learning needs? How can I use technology to accommodate them? Some ideas to try. Approach a new concept from a different learning perspective. If it is typically presented verbally, try an online or flipped approach. If it's something presented in a physical space, try something learners need to imagine. Or work individually with students to brainstorm how their learning connects to their personal goals, either long-term or short-term. Now let's look at the second indicator for the designer standard. It reads, design authentic learning activities that align with content area standards and use digital tools and resources to maximize active, deep learning. Next, we will further the definition by uncovering the intent of components 4 and 5 of this indicator. Diving deeper into this indicator, let's take a closer look at part 4, authentic learning activities. This means learning experiences that have value or resonance beyond the classroom or academics. For example, solving real-world, local, or global problems, career, workforce-related projects and skill building, wrestling with significant philosophical or intellectual problems, and design projects and processes. A question to consider. How can a digital tool deepen learning in my content area even if it's not overtly related? Some ideas to try. Encourage students to select appropriate tools that best meet their learning goals. Or explore examples of schools or educators that effectively apply deeper or authentic learning strategies. Now let's consider part 5 of this indicator, active deep learning. This means leveraging digital tools and resources so students can gain mastery of content area knowledge while also gaining vital competencies, including problem solving, critical thinking, effective communication, collaboration, self-direction, and belief in their ability to grow and improve with hard work and perseverance. A question to consider for part 5 of this indicator. How do I critically evaluate and use digital tools to meet content standards? Some ideas to try. Ask other educators for their recommendations on strategies and technologies for designing active learning experiences. Or explore examples of schools or educators that effectively apply deeper or authentic learning strategies. A second question to consider for part 5 of this indicator. How are my students encouraged to evaluate and use digital tools to create rather than consume? Some ideas to try. Design learning opportunities for all learners to creatively solve problems rather than relying on drill and practice methods. Or create a design challenge task. Now let's consider the third indicator of the designer standard. Explore and apply instructional design principles to create innovative digital learning environments that engage and support learning. Next, we'll further the definition by uncovering the intent of components 6 and 7 of this indicator. Diving deeper into part 6 of this indicator, instructional design principles. This means established and evolving best practices and guidelines for designing learning experiences for targeted learners. A question to consider for part 6. What is one principle or idea from instructional design that I can practice using to enhance my instruction? Some ideas. Educate yourself on various learning models through webinars, conferences, ed camps, or your PLNs, or visit a colleague's classroom to see which of their practices and approaches can be successfully adapted into your class. Now let's consider part 7 of this indicator. Create innovative digital learning environments. This means maximize learning by designing effective instruction in a variety of learning environments and rethinking physical space to enhance new models of classroom learning, such as blended learning, online learning, and various device models such as one-to-one, tablets or laptops, mobile devices, and computer labs. Question to consider for part 7 of this indicator. How might a blended or online learning opportunity better support my students? An idea to try. Adapt one lesson by incorporating a single online learning activity and use the face-to-face class time for students to reflect on the experience. A second question to consider for part 7. How can I design a blended learning environment that optimizes both face-to-face and online learning experience? Some ideas to try. Use or build upon proven online resources and strategies for effective online blended or face-to-face learning with digital tools. Some of those would be CK12 or Khan Academy. Start with those, use them, and then build upon them. A third question to consider for part 7. How can different learning environments be leveraged to better support student learning? Some ideas to try. Collaborate with colleagues to brainstorm strategies for engaging students in online, blended, or active learning environments. Here are some examples of how ISTE members work toward this standard. Barbara from Virginia submitted, modeling curiosity and confidence while planning for and using technology is a key part of my role as a 5th grade teacher. I design and adapt learning experiences and professional development that provides students and educators a path to envision a connected world differently. We use online creative authoring platforms to adapt standards-based projects that each learner then personalizes. These designs result in authentic multimedia research projects centered in student choice. They collaborate across the curriculum and create digital products that help them learn and teach each other. Kevin from Colorado offers, the traditional approach to learning does not work for our students. Support for current and emerging technologies is more important than ever. As an instructional technology coach, I enjoy spending a lot of my time working with educators and designing new approaches to learning that take advantage of technologies to better meet the individual needs of the learners. And Isabel from Portugal wrote, as a teacher, I always think about the inner and outer space of learning. As my students are older, they use technology to bridge their learning gaps and to challenge their peers. They edit the materials and build quizzes as if they were also responsible for their peers' learning. I also customize exercises for those who need extra help.